go.
Hey guys, it's Jemecia Capri, the nurse practitioner extraordinaire. If you're new to my channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Here we discuss all things NP, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's get it. Okay, so I'm going to put on my little glasses to make sure that I tell you everything. All right, so that I can see and tell you everything. I hope this doesn't cause too much of a glare, but anyway, so the number one thing that you need to do when you finally get into the clinic, this is what you've been waiting for, you're all excited, you get in there and you freeze. So this is what you need to do. Number one, nurses that have been practicing for tons of years, you guys struggle. You get in there and you guys, some of you guys are great and you guys do wonderful, but some of you guys get a little bit stuck because you know so much. Sometimes that becomes a barrier. So try to just be new, be open, get right down to the basics. So, or stay at the basics. The number one thing that I need to tell you, or tip number one, is learn the basics. When you go into someone's home, you learn the basics of their home. When you go into the clinic, learn the basics. Get your orientation, learn the lay of the land, learn how their clinic operates, and just be quiet and cordial, smile, and do what you're pretty much told during that time through orientation, okay? So that's number one, learn the basics. Number two, best practices. Whatever you do, make sure you are bringing into the clinic best practices, meaning you're on time, you are neat, you're professional, you have your lab jacket, you have your tools, you have your stethoscope, you have your otoscope, ophthalmoscope, your tuning fork, whatever you need, your hammer. Make sure you are prepared and you are ready for the day. Make sure. The next thing you need to know, some basic guidelines, your clinical practice guidelines. You need to make sure that you are prepared and you're coming knowing some basic stuff about hypertension, diabetes, sinusitis, otitis media, those basic things that you need to know about the clinic. I am preparing something. I'm getting something together for you guys where I've compiled it all for you so that you have some stuff you can just look and have it right there for you. I don't have it just ready just yet, but I'll let you guys know when I do get it. But if you leave your email or whatever below, I'll make sure you get notification when it does come. Also, once you're done with orientation, don't stay in orientation long. Honestly, I would say orientation, I'm going to take these off because they're throwing me off, sorry. Orientation, so I'm down to number 4. Number 1 was learn the basics. Number 2, the guidelines. Number 3, best practices, or number 2, best practices. Either way, you know what I'm talking about. Number 4, do something. Once you're done with orientation does not last for 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever. If your preceptor is telling you, okay, we're going to stay in orientation for 2 days, don't prolong the orientation. Do not. Do something the 3rd day. Say, hey, okay, I got my orientation. I would like to start this history on this next patient while you're in this room. I'll start the history. I'll do a quick exam and I'll wait on you and we'll go from there together. Do something. If your preceptor, if you feel comfortable enough, well, no, because you're not going to feel comfortable. Just do something. That is my tip for you. Do not stay in orientation. Do not shadow a preceptor your whole rotation. That is such a disservice to you. And it's a disservice really to the clinic and your preceptor. If you have a preceptor who is making you do that, that's another story. Then you need to be learning some skills and how to do that on your own. And that'll be part of some of the tips I give you today. But do not get stuck. Don't analyze your preceptor the whole time, because it's time for you to learn how to do something. So that's my next tip. Fifth tip, Learn the fundamentals. You have a lot of nursing knowledge. You have nursing knowledge. Some of you are coming into this very fresh, so you don't have anything, but most of you have some nursing knowledge, but you are learning the fundamentals of being a nurse practitioner, which is totally different. So I know you know a lot. I know you do, but bear with me. Fundamentals, know those first. What I mean by that is know how to take a history, know how to chart a history, whether that's on paper or in the clinic template. A lot of times when you're in the clinic, your preceptor will not give you access to the EMR. Then learn how to write a SOAP note down. You should have already learned that in class, but you have to learn those fundamentals. You have to learn the basic labs that will go with the basic things that come into the clinic. Learn what your clinic, where you are, what they're seeing the most from your preceptor. Find out what she sees the most during the week, and you go home and you study those things, and you come back prepared the next day, knowing something about those things. You be proactive with your learning, but don't overstep in the clinic, okay? So fundamentals, make sure you know your fundamentals, all right? Number 6, pace yourself. This isn't a sprint, this is a marathon. You have so much to learn. Don't go in over excited to do procedures. I have a lot of students, that's all they want to do. They want to do procedures. They don't want to learn the fundamentals first. They want to go and they want to suture something. They want to go and do a colposcopy. They want to go and take off a wart. They want to go and do a pap smear. Fundamentals. Slow down. Pace yourself. You're going to get it. I promise you. But you got to pace yourself. This is a serious thing that you're learning. And it doesn't help to do a pap smear if you don't even know why you're doing it. It doesn't help to keep burning off the wart if you don't know that there's an underlying cancer that you may be dealing with. Slow down. Pace yourself, okay? Number 7, ask questions. Relevant questions. Don't just ask random. Make sure your questions will lead to some significant knowledge. Something like, so I noticed that for that otitis media, you didn't give them an antibiotic. You just gave them Tylenol and antihistamines and this, that, or the other. Why didn't you give an antibiotic? When do you give an antibiotic for an otitis media? Or when do you use an antibiotic for a sinusitis versus not giving an antibiotic? Okay? Ask relevant questions. Something that gives your preceptor the knowledge that you really want to learn. You're really there to learn, that you don't know. And you need to learn. And that's another thing that I find, that when it's your first clinical rotation, you are so busy trying to show your preceptor that you know stuff when we already know that you don't. So, that you don't know the nurse practitioner stuff. Of course, you're all very knowledgeable, don't get me wrong, but ask relevant questions. Number 8, take notes. Be active in your learning. If I see a student, all they're doing is following me around, twiddling their thumbs, they're on their phone, they're not taking notes, they're not paying attention, that drives me crazy. Take notes. Take relevant notes. Because you may go back to those notes later. I'm telling you, I find myself going back to notes from stuff that I'll sit down with a couple doctors and a couple nurse practitioners, PAs, and they'll say something. I'll be like, "Ooh, I'm going to write that down." Take notes. Take notes, please. And have some type of tool with you. Don't come to clinical empty-handed. When I say tool, I mean bring something. Bring a book. Bring a book that you can put in your pocket, or bring a big book. I had books. I carried books. I didn't care how heavy they were. I wanted to look stuff up all the time. I was not shy about saying, hey, I'm gonna look it up, because I wanted to carry my knowledge into the clinic. I didn't want to just look like I knew. I wanted to know, and I want you to know too. So be sure that you have some type of tool. It could be one good book. And I'll do a video on the books that I think are great to bring to clinical eventually, but this is not that video. Okay, so number 9, study your preceptor. Study your preceptor and the surroundings. What I mean by that is your preceptor does things the same all the time. They're in a rhythm. And if they were not in a rhythm, they could not get from room to room to room to room in the time that they do. I want you to study that, to take on some of that. Throughout your school, you will have several preceptors. And some of them, you will pick up something and you're like, oh yes, I'm going to use that. That's perfect for me. And some of them, you're like, no, I'm not doing that. I definitely not going to do that. But study your preceptors and learn the techniques. Learn what they do. Go home and study that. Figure out why they did that. Come back the next day and discuss that. Don't wait for your preceptor to ask you. You ask your preceptor why they did something, what made them do that, stuff like that, okay? That's important. Last and final tip number 10, practice your nurse practitioner. What I mean by that is practice who you want to be as a nurse practitioner. When you go home at night and you've learned all this stuff, I know you're tired. I know you're tired. You have to log all the patients that you've seen all day. You have to do all that stuff. But practice being a nurse practitioner. Practice being kind to your patients. Practice how you want your patients to see you as a nurse practitioner. Again, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You are here for the long haul. You are taking care of people. You are impacting people's lives. You're saving lives. This is something that you want to make sure you're doing well, that you're out here representing our field. We are professional. We are needed. We're doing it. Like I said, you need to practice your nurse practitioner. Who you're going to be, who you want people to know you as in the field. And that's my number 1 tip. Those are my tips. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave me some comments and some suggestions on videos that you may want to see here on this channel. I really focus in on nurse practitioner students. I focus in on women's health. I focus on educating, and I focus on nurse practitioners and how I see it from my perspective. Again, thank you so much, and please comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time, guys.